Across vast parts of regional Australia, change is on the horizon, and battle lines are being drawn between farmers and energy companies.
Everybody in rural New South Wales is feeling quite disempowered at this stage.
If you don't communicate what's happening, good, bad or indifferent, then people lose trust in what you're doing.
It's divided the community.
Grant Piper's family has been farming in Uabri near Dubbo for more than a century. He's on the front line of this fight, resisting the state government's plans to transform this region into a modern-day renewable power station.
You destroy the village to save the village. You say you're saving the planet, but we're going to destroy what we've got and undermine our food production.
The two not
impact.
coexist, renewables and farmland?
Well, if you look at the other areas with wind farms and things like that, I mean, most of the landowners move away or they don't actively farm after a period or they on-sell it.
The Central West, where Grant lives, was declared a renewable energy zone back in 2020, one of 5 in New South Wales. Selected for its strong potential for new wind and solar farms that'll be needed as coal-fired power stations close. Developers have swooped. More than a dozen projects are in the pipeline, as well as a new network of high-voltage transmission lines. One of those lines is set to slice through a corner of Grant's property.
We've only got a minor impact. There's many people in this area that have got a huge impact, going right across the middle of their place, across the middle of their infrastructure. And so they're the ones that are really hurting.
Grant says he's worried about the potential impact on his farming operations and the future value of his land. The project's been declared critical state significant infrastructure, and the state-owned Energy Co has the power to take the land it needs. In November, it wrote to the Pipers to commence the compulsory acquisition process in case the two parties failed to reach a negotiated settlement.
You're negotiating with a gun to your head, and that's not a fair negotiation.
In a statement, Energy Co said it has engaged with the community and reduced the number of landholders affected by the proposed transmission lines to just over 90. Almost all of them, it says, have reached an agreement.
There was a lot of opposition from the community about their proposal.
In nearby Gollan, one of the biggest wind farms in the state is in the works near Rebecca and Andrew Glencross's property.
We were only really made aware about this project, that it was going to go ahead as a proposal, I think it was about February last year. And so by that stage, their planning was quite advanced and they already had the hosts of the turbines signed up to it.
According to Rebecca, the developer Squadron Energy asked her to sign a neighbour agreement and offered $10,000 a year to compensate for the visual impact of the 117 turbine project. She declined.
It was not only a neighbour agreement, it was a privacy confidentiality agreement that we were not allowed to speak about, like that we had signed on to be neighbours of this project. We weren't allowed to tell people about that. There was also parts of that agreement that said that we were not allowed to object to the project in any way during its development. And then, then it gets you thinking about, well, they're now neighbours, and you think, oh, have they signed these agreements? And, can they still talk to us about these things and things like that? And so, yeah, so it's a huge point of conflict.
Squadron Energy says its neighbour agreements are industry standard, but encourages and assists landowners to seek independent legal advice. Confidentiality clauses are included, it says, to protect personal and commercially sensitive information. Grassroots resistance is growing right across the country, and construction delays could jeopardise Australia's ambitious 2030 climate targets. Against that backdrop, last year, the federal government asked Energy Infrastructure Commissioner Andrew Dyer to come up with a plan to smooth the transition from here.
Communities are getting, fatigued, for want of a better word, from the deluge of projects.
You've got one thing I don't have.
Not only fatigued, but according to the report released last week, developers are also causing mistrust and anxiety by continuously prospecting the land for future projects. And they've been put on notice to lift their game.
And I can understand if you're a landholder or a community member how you have trouble working out who's serious, who you can engage with.
We're now in an era where we're building new transmission lines, which opens up whole new corridors for development of wind and solar. But it does bring with it a new era of people seeking to develop projects that may or may not happen.
There is money to be made in this renewable revolution. Farmers hosting wind turbines can earn around $30,000 per turbine per year over the life of the project. Hosting a new transmission line involves a one-off payment, plus here in New South Wales, ongoing compensation from the government. It's a passive income for farmers in good years and bad.
If this area is going to provide 42% of the power for the state, which is what will happen, then I think it's only fair and reasonable that the people, the community in this area, gain some benefit, gain some advantages.
In the heart of the Central West, Dubbo's mayor is eyeing what he sees as massive opportunities, from the thousands of jobs during construction to the millions of dollars renewable energy companies are pumping into the regions through community benefit funds.
And I did meet with some farmers, and some of them said, how do we stop these projects? And I joked that you'd have better chance of standing at Bondi Beach and stopping the tide coming in than you would of stopping these projects. They're going ahead. We need them to go ahead. Our nation, our state, the planet needs all these projects to go ahead.
It's cold comfort for those who feel they're bearing the costs of this massive transition.
I am really afraid because, you know, I kind of feel like they are putting these projects out into regional communities because we're the path of least resistance.
What would you say to critics who might listen to your argument and say, oh, it's just another NIMBY. He just doesn't want renewable energy in his backyard?
Yeah, well, true, I don't. But you take it in your backyard.